Mr. Chairman, thank you for the time here. Let's start with this study here. What do you expect the study to find?
There's no expectation really. What we want to do is find out exactly how much water is in this aquifer inside the Neches and Trinity Valley's Groundwater Conservation District. One of the things that we learned through the hearing in July 15th and subsequently when we've had hearings a couple in between now and then is that uh, really we don't have a good understanding of the science behind our aquifers throughout East Texas and throughout the entire state of Texas. The Carrizo Wilcox stretches from way up in Northeast Texas all the way down to the South Texas uh, area, and in reality, we just don't know how much water is there. That's the whole purpose of this study, is to hit pause. We're not saying that we're never going to export water out of East Texas. We're just saying we need to have a really good understanding of how much water is there and how pumping affects that water in the future.
And the Texas Water Development Board has until January 27 to report back here. Until then, there's a moratorium on all new permits being issued. So all new permits for this aquifer will come to a halt until the study is complete. Is that right?
Almost right. It's all new permit and production and export permits. So
Okay.
your rancher that's in East Texas or inside this GCD or somebody drilling a water well for their home, they are not impacted by this at all. It is just on production and export permits.
We've talked about this issue on Yolitics. We've done quite a few stories on it as well, too. But what's really at stake, do you think, for folks in East Texas?
This is our livelihood. I mean, if you look at the particular projects that are on the table that have been applied for exploration wells, one in Henderson County, one in Anderson County, the modeled available groundwater. So that's a really important figure to understand, and that's why we're doing this study. The groundwater management area that's over this part of the GCD has said that the modeled available groundwater for these two counties is about 36,000 acre feet per year that
Mm.
everyone out there can pump from these two counties. Well, the two projects propose to pump over 50,000 acre feet per year. So if these go through and that modeled available groundwater is correct, that means that no one else could ever apply for a well inside those two counties. There could be no economic development, not attracting any new jobs or anything that relies on water. So that's why this is so critical for our area.
This could dry up parts of East Texas, then, I guess, right?
That's right. And not only parts of East Texas, we're just now beginning to have a really good understanding of how the relationship between groundwater and surface water in the rivers. So let's take Trinity River, for example. All of these wells in Anderson County are very close to the Trinity River, could be in an aquifer recharge zone where that river water has a relationship with the aquifer. So if you dry up the aquifer there, you could impact the water flows in the Trinity River,
Mm.
which then go down to Houston, to Lake Livingston, and supply the drinking water for the greater Houston region. And the same can be said further upstream, for the DFW.
Yeah, indeed. So Texans unfamiliar with this may not realize it, but there's a 1904 law that I know you know about called the rule of capture, and it allows anyone, a landowner, to pump and own all the water beneath their property, even if it depletes their neighbor's water supply. It seems to me like the rule of capture is what needs to be updated here. Why not just go in and amend that?
That's a great question, Jason. In the last special session or the first special session, I did file a bill to change the rule of capture, but I did that knowing that this is a conversation that probably does need to be have over the term of a full interim and going into a full legislative session to go in and figure out the best way to change a law that's been in place for 120 years. May be too quick to try to do that in a special session. So absolutely, I agree with you. It's time to modernize the rule of capture, but not entirely do away with it. But in reality, oil and gas used to be straight rule of capture 100 years ago, and they recognized the need to change that when they understood how it affected property owners. So now we're starting to get to that point where, with high capacity water production, neighbors are being impacted in a substantial way, and it's time for the legislature to take a hard look at that.
So is the idea to do the study, find out what you're working with here, and then try to amend it perhaps in the future?
Yeah, I think so. And you know, that may not be something that gets done in one session, honestly. Big hard issues like this typically take one or two or three regular sessions to finally get across the finish line.
Another one of your bills, Mr. Chairman, House Bill 24, would have capped the amount of groundwater that someone could pump out, but that was left pending in committee. What happened with that?
Well, that one's pretty simple. It just doesn't fit on the governor's call.
Okay.
For legislation to move through the process, it has to be on the call that the governor sets.
Kyle Bass is the Texan who wants to extract this water, and he's now threatening to go to court over this. Do you expect that the state might have some exposure here, some damages perhaps, because Bass has purchased these 11,000 acres?
Yeah, I really don't think so. I mean, it is the legislature's role to be stewards of our most precious resources, and we have set up groundwater conservation districts to do that, and we've given the ability for local areas to set up groundwater conservation districts, but they are an extension of the state. And so it is absolutely within the purview of the legislature to step in and say, this is how we think you should do things.
Texas has 9 major aquifers, as you well know here. What's to stop Kyle Bass or any other entrepreneur or company from going in and different parts of the state and drilling these wells and exporting water right now? What's to stop anyone from doing that?
That's why hitting pause on this project is so important, because I believe that if we don't, you will see a proliferation of these types of export projects throughout Texas, depleting our aquifers. And you know, we're going to solve the water crisis, and you know, utilizing the groundwater in East Texas is one day going to be part of that. But I think we need to be going after seawater desalination, brackish groundwater desalination. We've got 8 or 9 million acre feet of unallocated water in Toledo Bend Lake that we can pipe out.
Hmm.
So I think that groundwater should be the last resort, because it's such a precious and finite natural resource. But what's to protect people from that happening tomorrow? If they're not inside a groundwater conservation district, just like Houston County is not, and they're part of these projects, there's rule of capture on its face applies. So somebody can go in and pump as much as they want without permitting. So a GCD or groundwater conservation district is really all that's there to protect someone.
Wow. Last question on this. You kind of hit on it there a moment ago. Texas needs more water here. What's the answer? Because at some point you just said that maybe East Texas does contribute to other parts of the state that might need it.
Yeah, that's why we passed, and I was an author of House Joint Resolution 7, which is going to be on the constitutional ballot in November, and SB 7 with my counterpart, Senator Perry,
Sure.
in the Senate, which we're allocating $20 billion over the course of 20 years. So $1 billion per year towards water infrastructure. Identifying new water sources and moving it throughout the state. And I think the first place we should be looking is seawater desalination and brackish groundwater desalination and other sources outside of the state of Texas, or existing sources like Toledo Bend Lake that just need a pipe going somewhere else to deliver that water.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the time. Good luck.
Jason, thank you very much for having me.